The PSP was supposed to fail. Everyone said you couldn't put console-quality RPGs on a handheld, that the graphics would be terrible, the stories would be shallow, and nobody would want to play 100-hour games on a device you hold in your hands. These 12 games proved everyone wrong and completely changed what we expect from portable gaming forever, even before the Steam Deck. Star Ocean First Departure is a remake of the original Star Ocean that completely overhauls the graphics, adds voice acting, and expands the game with new content while keeping the unique sci-fi meets fantasy premise intact. The story starts in a medieval fantasy world where your village gets infected with a deadly disease, and you discover the infection came from a crashed spaceship, leading you to team up with time travelers to find a cure on other planets. The game brilliantly combines fantasy RPG gameplay with sci-fi elements, and you travel between planets using spaceships while fighting with swords and magic. The private action system is genius. When you enter towns, you can split up your party and each character goes off to do their own thing, and finding them triggers unique scenes that develop their personalities and relationships. The skill system is incredibly deep with tons of skills to learn like cooking, writing, art, and music, and these skills let you create items, unlock special events, and even affect the story. Multiple endings depend on which characters you recruit and your relationship values with them. Certain characters are mutually exclusive, meaning you replay the game multiple times to see everything. The item creation system lets you craft weapons, accessories, and consumables using your skills, and the recipes are hidden, requiring experimentation to discover. Jeanne d'Arc is a tactical RPG that reimagines the story of Joan of Arc, but adds demons, magical armlets, and fantasy elements to create something that feels like Final Fantasy Tactics meets historical fiction. You play as Jeanne, a peasant girl who finds a magical armlet that gives her the power to transform into a warrior of light and lead the French army against an English invasion powered by demonic forces. The combat is grid-based tactics where you move units across battlefields and position them to attack enemies. The game uses the same height and facing mechanics as FFT, where attacking from behind or from higher ground gives you bonuses. The burning aura system makes combat unique. Defeating an enemy leaves a glowing spot on the ground, and if you move a character through it, they get a free action, letting you move again or attack twice. This creates an amazing strategic layer where you plan out chains of kills to move your powerful units across the entire map in a single turn. The transformation system lets certain characters equip special armlets to transform into more powerful forms with better stats and new abilities, and managing who transforms and when becomes crucial in harder battles. The skill system is deep with tons of abilities to unlock and equip, and you can customize each character's build by choosing which skills to prioritize. The story is surprisingly dark for a game with an anime art style, dealing with war, sacrifice, and the cost of using demonic power, even for good purposes. The difficulty curve is fair but challenging, with later battles requiring careful planning and smart positioning to win. The game looks gorgeous on the PSP, with vibrant colors and detailed character sprites, and the battle animations are smooth and satisfying. Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep is a prequel that tells the origin story of the series and is considered by many fans to be the best game in the entire franchise because of its refined combat system and emotional narrative. You play as 3 different characters, Terra, Ventus, and Aqua, and you experience the same story from 3 different perspectives, with each character's campaign taking 15 to 20 hours. The command deck system lets you equip abilities and spells to a deck and cycle through them in battle, and you can customize your deck completely to create different playstyles. The command melding system is genius innovation, where you combine 2 commands to create more powerful ones, like mixing fire and blizzard to create Fyra, and experimenting with different combinations unlocks tons of abilities. Each character plays differently, with Terra being slow but powerful with heavy attacks, Ventus being fast and agile with quick combos, and Aqua being balanced with strong magic. The Dimension Link system lets you temporarily link with other characters you befriended to gain new abilities and stat boosts. The story is darker and more mature than other Kingdom Hearts games, dealing with themes of friendship, sacrifice, and the nature of light and darkness. And the ending is genuinely heartbreaking. Boss fights are challenging and require mastery of the combat system, especially the secret bosses that will destroy you if you don't have perfect strategies.
Oh, grow up.
Hex's Force is an underrated JRPG that flew under most people's radar, but it deserves recognition for its unique dual protagonist system and satisfying turn-based combat. The game has two separate storylines where you choose to play as either Cecilia, a priestess fighting to protect the world, or Levant, a knight trying to destroy it, and both campaigns are completely different with unique characters, dungeons, and story perspectives. The combat uses the Force system where attacks build up force points that you spend on powerful Ragnafacts, which are basically limit breaks, and managing your FP becomes crucial in boss fights. The weapon customization is brilliant. Every weapon can be upgraded and transformed into different forms by finding transformation stones, and you can create branching weapon trees with different stat focuses and special abilities. The alchemy system lets you craft items, accessories, and consumables using materials found in dungeons, and certain recipes are hidden and require experimentation. The difficulty is well balanced with regular encounters being manageable, but bosses requiring preparation and strategy. The game doesn't let you grind excessively because experience gains drop off if you're overleveled for an area. The story deals with themes of faith, duty, and moral ambiguity, and playing both campaigns gives you the full picture of what's really happening. Each campaign takes around 25 hours, giving you 50+ hours of content to see both sides. Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions is the definitive version of one of the greatest tactical RPGs ever made, adding new classes, new story scenes, and full voice acting to an already perfect game. The story follows Ramza Beolf, a noble who gets caught up in a massive war between kingdoms and slowly uncovers a conspiracy involving the church, demons, and ancient magical stones. The narrative is dark and political, dealing with themes of class warfare, religious corruption, and the cost of idealism. It's told through beautiful cutscenes with Shakespearean dialogue that makes everything feel epic and theatrical. The combat is grid-based tactics where units have different classes like Knight, Monk, Black Mage, and dozens more, and each class has unique abilities and stat growth. The job system is incredibly deep because you can mix and match abilities from different classes, like making a Knight who can cast healing magic or a Monk who can use time magic to speed up allies. Positioning matters because attacking from higher ground or from the side gives bonuses, and some abilities have charge times that can be interrupted if the caster takes damage. The early chapters are brutally difficult because you have limited money and weak units, and certain story battles are notoriously hard with reinforcements spawning in bad positions. The permanent death system means if a KO'd unit isn't revived within 3 turns, they're gone forever, which makes you play carefully and always have a plan to save down allies. Tons of optional content includes hidden characters, secret battles, and a deep equipment crafting system. The PSP version adds 2 new classes, Onion Knight and Dark Knight, and new story content featuring Balthier from FF12. Phantasy Star Portable 2 took the MMO-style action RPG gameplay of Phantasy Star Universe and perfected it for handheld play, creating a loot-driven monster hunting game that feels like Diablo meets sci-fi anime. You create a custom character choosing from multiple races and classes, each with different stat distributions and abilities, and you take missions across different planets fighting aliens, robots, and massive bosses. The combat is real-time action where you run around arenas and combo attacks together. Different weapon types have completely different playstyles, with swords being fast and aggressive, guns letting you attack from range, and techniques being space magic you cast for elemental damage and buffs. The Photon Art system lets you equip special attacks to your weapons that cost PP to use, and you chain these together for massive damage combos. The loot system is addictive because every mission gives you random weapon and armor drops with different stats and special abilities. You constantly find upgrades or rare items with unique properties. Most missions take 5 to 20 minutes, and you can jump in for a quick session or chain missions together for longer play. The game has a ridiculous amount of content with hundreds of missions across different difficulty levels and infinity mode that generates endless random missions with scaling difficulty and better loot. The multiplayer lets you team up with friends for co-op missions, and tackling the hardest content with a full party is incredibly satisfying. Trails in the Sky proved handheld RPGs could tell stories just as complex and engaging as anything on consoles. And it's the first entry in the massive Legend of Heroes series that spans multiple games and literally hundreds of hours of interconnected storytelling. You play as Estelle Bright, a girl training to become a bracer, which is basically a mercenary for hire who takes on jobs protecting civilians and solving problems across the country of Liberl. The game starts simple with basic fetch quests and escort missions, but it slowly builds into this massive political conspiracy involving multiple nations, ancient technology, and a secret organization manipulating events. Here's what makes the writing special. Every single NPC in the game has a unique personality, and their dialogue changes after every story event. You can talk to a random shopkeeper at the start who mentions their daughter is getting married. And if you come back 10 hours later after completing a chapter, they'll talk about how the wedding went. The combat is turn-based and uses a grid where positioning matters because spells have AoE ranges and you can knock enemies around the battlefield. Every character has arts, which are magic spells you customize by equipping different quartz crystals, and crafts, which are unique special abilities that cost CP instead of mana. The turn order system displayed at the top of the screen shows exactly when each character and enemy will act, and certain turns have bonus effects like critical hits or HP recovery. You can manipulate turn order by using delay attacks or speed buffs to make sure your characters get the bonus turns. The game is long, easily 60 to 80 hours for the main story, but it never feels padded because the pacing is perfect and every chapter introduces new areas and mysteries. Crisis Core is the prequel to Final Fantasy VII that nobody knew they needed, and it completely changed how people think about action RPGs on handhelds by creating a real-time combat system that feels fast and responsive while still maintaining the depth of a traditional Final Fantasy game. You play as Zack Fair, a member of Soldier who is basically a super soldier working for the Shinra Corporation, and the story follows his journey from an enthusiastic rookie to the hero who would directly influence Cloud's story in the original game. The combat uses real-time action where you run around the battlefield and attack enemies directly, but you also have a menu where you can select magic spells and items, combining the best parts of action games and turn-based RPGs. The materia system returns from FF7, where you equip different materia to learn spells and abilities, and you can fuse materia together to create stronger versions with new effects. The most unique mechanic is the digital mind wave, which is a slot machine constantly spinning in the corner of the screen during battles. When it lands on matching symbols, it triggers limit breaks, summons, or stat buffs. It sounds random, but the DMW is actually tied to Zack's emotional state in the story, so certain characters show up more frequently on the reels, depending on your relationships and what's happening in the plot. The game looks incredible on the PSP with fully voiced cutscenes, detailed character models, and environments that feel like real locations from the FF7 universe. The mission structure is perfect for handheld gaming because the main story is split into chapters, but there are also 300 optional missions that range from 1-minute fights to longer boss battles. The story is emotional and hits hard, especially if you played FF7, because you know exactly how Zack's journey ends.
Modulating phase. Then, that concludes the basics.
Persona 3 Portable takes one of the best JRPGs ever made and somehow improves it by adding a female protagonist route that completely changes the game's social dynamics and gives you an entirely new perspective on the story. You're a high school student who discovers you can summon a persona, which is a manifestation of your inner psyche, and you join a group of other students fighting shadows during the dark hour. A hidden hour between midnight and 1 a.m. where time stops and monsters appear. The genius of Persona 3 is how it balances two completely different gameplay loops. During the day, you're a normal student attending classes, making friends, and building social links with NPCs. At night, you're exploring Tartarus, a massive, randomly generated tower filled with enemies and bosses. The social link system is what makes the game special, because every relationship you build with other characters directly powers up your personas in combat, and the conversations feel meaningful and explore real themes like death, friendship, and finding purpose in life. The female protagonist route changes almost every social link, letting you romance different characters and see alternative perspectives on the same events, which adds massive replay value. The combat is turn-based and uses the one more system where hitting an enemy's weakness gives you an extra turn. And if you knock down all enemies, you can perform an all-out attack where your entire party rushes in for massive damage. The Persona Fusion system is incredibly deep, letting you combine two personas to create stronger ones, and inherited skills are passed down, allowing you to create custom personas with perfect movesets. The dungeon crawling can be repetitive since Tartarus is randomly generated and visually samey, but the combat is engaging enough, and the social sim elements are so good that it balances out.
The enemy is...
Disgaea Afternoon of Darkness brings the insane depth of the PS2 original to the PSP and adds new content, while keeping everything that made the game a cult classic. You can grind your characters to level 9,999 and keep going beyond that if you're completely insane. You play as Laharl, a demon prince who wakes up from a 2-year nap to find out his father died, and now demons are fighting for control of the Netherworld. The story is surprisingly funny and charming despite being about demons and violence. The tactical combat takes place on grid-based maps where you deploy up to 10 units and fight enemies using a combination of physical attacks, magic spells, and special techniques. The Geo panel system is genius. Colored tiles on the map have special effects based on Geo symbols placed on them, and you can destroy or move these symbols to change the battlefield in your favor, like removing enemy invincibility or creating chains that deal massive damage to everything. The game has infinite replayability because of the item world, which is a randomly generated dungeon that exists inside every item in the game. You can enter any item and fight through 100 floors to level it up and make it stronger. You can spend hundreds of hours just diving into item worlds to create the perfect equipment. The character creation system lets you make custom units of almost any class, and you can reincarnate characters to reset their level but keep their stats, making them stronger each time. The humor is self-aware and breaks the fourth wall constantly, with characters making jokes about game mechanics and RPG tropes. The difficulty is whatever you make it, because you can breeze through the story or challenge yourself with post-game content that requires perfect strategies. Monster Hunter Freedom Unite defined the PSP as a system and proved that complex, skill-based action games could work on handhelds, creating a formula that would dominate portable gaming for years. You're a hunter in a world filled with massive monsters, and you take quests to hunt them down for materials to craft better weapons and armor, so you can hunt even bigger monsters. The combat is methodical and deliberate, with 11 different weapon types, each with completely unique move sets and strategies. Mastering even one weapon takes dozens of hours. The Great Sword is slow, but deals massive damage with charged attacks. The dual blades are fast and let you go into a demon mode for rapid combos, and the hammer can knock monsters unconscious with hits to the head. Every monster has specific behaviors and attack patterns you learn, and you can't button mash your way through. You watch for openings and commit to attacks because animations are slow and deliberate. The game respects the monster as an actual creature. They limp when damaged, retreat to sleep and heal, and react to environmental changes. Breaking specific monster parts gives you rare materials and changes their attack patterns, like breaking a Rathalos's wings makes it stop flying. The game is structured in missions that take 10 to 50 minutes, perfect for portable play. Everything is built around the loop of hunting monsters to craft gear to hunt harder monsters. The multiplayer is where the game truly shines, letting you team up with friends locally to take down monsters that would be nearly impossible solo. Coordinating attacks and rolls creates incredible teamwork moments. Valkyrie Profile. Lilith is a port of the PS1 classic that brought one of the most unique RPG experiences to the PSP, and it does everything differently from traditional JRPGs in the best possible way. You play as Lilith, a Valkyrie tasked by Odin to recruit the souls of fallen warriors and train them to fight in the upcoming War of Ragnarok. The structure is completely unique because you have a time limit measured in periods to recruit enough Einherjar and send them to Valhalla. The game is split between exploring dungeons in a 2D side-scrolling perspective and engaging in combat, and the exploration feels like a platformer where you can jump, slide, and shoot crystals to freeze enemies or create platforms. The combat system is what really sets this game apart because it uses a real-time action system where each face button is assigned to a different party member, and you press buttons in sequence to chain attacks together and build hit combos. Timing is everything because you want to coordinate your attacks, so all 4 characters strike simultaneously to maximize damage and trigger special attacks. Certain combinations create powerful finishing moves that deal massive damage. The Soul Crush system lets characters unleash devastating ultimate attacks if you build up enough energy during combat, and these attacks have gorgeous anime-style cutscenes. Multiple endings depend on how many Einherjar you send to Valhalla and your seal rating, which measures Odin's evaluation of your performance. Getting the true ending requires you to basically ignore Odin's orders and keep powerful warriors for yourself instead of sending them up. The story explores Norse mythology but adds its own dark twists, and you recruit warriors by witnessing their deaths and judging whether they're worthy, which leads to emotional stories about sacrifice, betrayal, and redemption.